Was the Prime Minister addressing the fact that there's been a mass resignation from the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation. The president and CEO and the board of directors, the volunteer board of directors, resigned during the political fallout from a $200,000 donation from a businessman with links to the Chinese government. A brief statement says that the politicization of the foundation made it impossible to continue with the status quo. The resignations prompted Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to call for an investigation into the foundation, and that comes at the same time as the Prime Minister's top staffer, his chief of staff, Katie Telford, is set to testify before a committee that's investigating allegations of elections interference. That testimony will happen this Friday. Let's bring in the front bench to unpack all of that. With me this evening, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's the CEO of Space Canada. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is here, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Great to see you. Rob, I'll start with you because what prompted this, like the reporting on the donation, was all the way back on February 28th. Within days, the foundation said we're returning that donation. It's been a number of weeks since. It was kind of surprising to see that the board kind of resigned en masse. Is it a bit of kind of the way a board functions, that it takes a while to come together and make that decision, or do you think there might be something else coming down the pipe?
I mean, I think it could be both things, Vassy. But I mean, the Trudeau Foundation is clearly collateral damage. I thought it was a little bit rich for the leader of the opposition on Twitter. I don't know if he's actually said this in real life, but on Twitter, for him to say that it's the Beijing funded Trudeau Foundation. Well, I mean, former Reform MPs Ray Speaker and Chuck Strahl were both involved with this charity and did good work there. So, and they were Reform MPs when Pierre Poilievre was still dressing up as Jean Chrétien and going to rallies to have fun. So I'm not really sure that it's fair to say this is sort of some Beijing-funded liberal front group, and I think, but they're collateral damage in this whole China debacle, and frankly, the PMO has handled the whole crisis management, as we've talked about many times, very poorly, and unfortunately, this is what happens. Charities like this fall by the wayside, and it's not a good look for this country, frankly.
I guess the bigger political question, Lisa, is to what extent does this or doesn't this continue to do damage to the government on this file? What are your thoughts on that?
Every day that this is in the news is a bad day for the government. Just when you think you've cleared the decks and you get to talk about your budget or you get to talk about the bilateral with Ukrainian Prime Minister, something else happens. The timing is curious. And to Robert Benzie's comments with respect to what Pierre Poilievre did, I mean, the adage in politics is when you're explaining, you're losing, quite frankly. So the accusations are going to come. And it makes a lot of sense for Pierre to take the position that he's taking and to make it put it back into the hands of Justin Trudeau, his government, and the foundation to make the explanation. So it's not surprising to me. This is something that happens all the time.
It's interesting, Tom, because, and I'll get Brian to weigh on this as well, Lisa's point is a great one around the degree to which we had like a 10-day reprieve from this being the main topic, right? Like it's true, they were able to talk a little bit about the budget, about other things. It wasn't as though during every media availability this was every question, and that was the way it was for at least a month and a half, 2 months. Does the fact that this is in the news, regardless of the merits and the debate around the merits of it, mean that the government kind of takes a little bit of this on the nose?
Well, both Bob and Lisa alluded to the fact that the timing, as you just suggested, is a bit odd. I mean, why did it take so long, and is there another shoe to drop? I think that's the question on everybody's mind right now. With regard to the foundation itself, it exists largely due to a grant from a former Liberal government in the name of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and it has done a great job handing out money to top flight students across the country. And I hope that they're able to reconstitute a board of credible people who will be able to carry on the work, because that is public money that's there, so most of it, able to carry on the work and help students from across the country.
Brian, what are your thoughts on whether or not there's any sort of political, like longer-term political fallout from this? And then also, as we look ahead to Katie Telford testifying on Friday, is the potential for more fallout from that greater?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lisa's point is right. Anytime this is in the media, it's not a great day. You can see the Prime Minister's reaction is a bit of sort of go on offense and really sort of try to swat this down, basically saying this is a politicization of politics and sort of polarization that's contributing to this. Look, as was already mentioned, I mean, we got to put in context, this was discussed pretty much every cycle for a while. Then we had the Biden visit, we had the budget, and a 2-week off of Parliament sitting, which is usually a time when things calm down a little bit. So I had said when Biden was arriving, I think at the time we were all chatting, and basically like if that kind of setup of Biden budget 2 weeks off doesn't get this sort of off the headlines, then that's a bit of a challenge. It looked like it was going to, so the timing being suspect, I don't know if we should read too much into it. I think your point, Vassy, that it can take time for a board to react is fair, so we'll see if there's something else, but it could very well just be the logistics of getting the board together to discuss the matter. It could just be board members that are volunteers saying, look, I'm getting, and I don't know if this is the case, but I'm getting sort of people saying these negative things about me. I don't want to be involved in this. I'm volunteering my time. I want out. Enough board members saying that, maybe they just basically all came to the conclusion it's time for a clean slate. I don't know, but hopefully we'll have those answers, because I think those answers would be helpful. But to your ultimate question, I think that this has definitely revived it with Chief of Staff coming, Katie Telford. I think that's another opportunity as well to breathe more life into it. So it's sort of an unfortunate political situation for Trudeau and the Liberals, because they had such a nice 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4-day punch where they were getting on other topics.
Yeah, not quite. Lisa, just quickly, I wanted to get your take on how high you think the political stakes are for Ms. Telford's appearance before committee.
I don't think the political stakes are really that high. I think what the Conservatives have to do is they have to go in and try to get as many sound bites as possible, either them putting the charges to her or her responding to them. They're either going to go with, this is the answer she gave us, or she gave us a non-answer. So it's going to be a bit pro forma. This is interesting news for them to chew on. But Vassy, one last thing. If this board is too politicized and the CEO is too politicized, I mean, the entity is politicized. How does a new board not be politicized? Yeah. That's the part that I don't get. That's the part of the discussion that I'm very curious to know what's coming next.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole point of the perception, right, Tom? I mean, regardless of the good work now, it's like everyone thinks it's associated with Justin Trudeau, and there's implications to that. And I'm not saying they're all merited, but it's like that's the perception that people have.
Yeah, and even incredibly top-notch people like David Johnston or Morris Rosenberg, they were part of the whole narrative around Chinese government interference in Canadian elections. So it's stained the whole exercise. But I'm a little bit more optimistic than Lisa. I actually think that maybe this is the opportunity that was lacking in the past to move beyond the usual gang and come up with people with different backgrounds, more open, different political views, but also different academic pursuits, and bring those to the table. I think that you can't leave all that money there and not help distribute it to students who need it to carry on the best research there is. Trudeau was right on that part. Where it was a bit rich is to hear Trudeau say that all this is about toxicity. Well, no, come on. You're the one who named Johnston, and you knew he was on the board of the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, and you're the one who asked Morris Rosenberg, fine fellow as well, but you asked him to review whether or not the initial review of your 3 employees was a sufficient look at the 2019-2021 election. So Trudeau has a lot of this to blame on himself. With regard to Katie Telford, if I might, my money's on Katie Telford. I've seen her manhandle the Conservatives. Unless they've had really good trial lawyers explaining to them how to do this, how to ask questions, I'm quite confident not much will come of it.